Hey guys, short one today. Just a quick topic, but a very important one. What happens when price changes? Think about it. What happens when price changes? To help you think about it, there's two angles to look at it. When prices change, you have to look at it from the consumer side, and then you also have to look at it from the producer side. Now, students, adults, pretty much anyone, if you never think about this stuff, most of us have no problem thinking about price changes or anything else in economics from the consumer side. However, things change when we get to the producer side. Like, unless you own a business or run a business or work for a business or been around long enough, you tend not to think about prices, how prices impact your business if you don't have a business. So think about what happens when prices change. Okay, vocabulary for today: price, quantity, quantity demanded, negative relationships, positive relationships. That's all we're doing today. There's more. We're going to build on it after we go. All right, so take a pause, write those down. You're going to need them, and shift over to here. On the board, we're going to do a little bit of graphing to get you guys started with graphing. All right, just want to go over a couple of things before we get into answering that question above. This is our typical x and y you see in math class, right? Plus, plus, x-axis is positive, y-axis is positive, x and y are negative, minus, plus, plus, minus. Here's the good news. We don't have to worry about this one, and we don't have to worry about this one. In micro, we have to worry a little bit down here. We go into negatives in micro on occasion for our class, but for macro, which we're doing here, we don't have to worry about it. Good news. Over here, so since we're only worrying about the right quadrant, here's what you're going to have to see in most of your graphs in both micro and macro. Over here on the y-axis, most of the time you're going to see P. P stands for price. Down over here on the bottom, you're going to have Q. Q stands for quantity. So think of that expression, mind your P's and Q's, right? I wonder if they're talking about economics. I don't know. Then you're going to see numbers. You're going to have your 0 down here. And you're going to see, as you go to the right or as you go up, you're going to see increasing numbers. Okay? Well, what does that mean? Well, on the previous graph that we looked at a production possibilities frontier. In that graph, it's different than this one. Because in this graph, production possibilities, we're trying to demonstrate what happens. We have a country that can produce A or a country that can produce B. Producing more of one means that it's going to cost more of the other. Right? So more of one means less of the other. Opportunity costs, trade-offs, scarcity. That's what we're trying to demonstrate with this. Most of the graphs, however, are going to look more like this, where we're talking about one price of this and quantity of that. All right? So we're not going to see a graph that's connected from one to the other. That's really the only time we see that. In the future, all we're really going to see is we're going to see plotted points. Okay, and these plotted points are statistical data. If I were to take an economy of, how many got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, right down here's 5, then those 5 people will say, well, if the price of particular good, I don't know what this good could be, it could be anything, apples. If the price is $2, I'll buy 4 of them. If the price is $4, I'll buy 3 of them. If the price is 6, I'll buy 2, and 8, I'll buy 1. Let's just say this is a hypothetical. Well, in economics, we say, what is this? What do we call this? If you've taken a math class by senior year, you should know that this is a trend. And most graphs aren't neat, but this one is because we're just talking about simple problems here. So what do we call this? Math class? Well, if just look at the y or the x. As the y-axis increases in numbers, what happens to the x-axis? As y goes up, the x-axis goes down. So we say that's a negative slope. Okay? A negative slope. Why? Because when you divide x and y, you get a negative number. Right? A positive and a negative. You divide those, you get a negative. So it's a negative slope. We say it's a negative relationship. That's one of our vocabulary words. All right. On the flip side, if we're if we have a similar economy, and now, if the relationship says as X increases, what happens to P? As to the Y, I'm sorry. As X increases, what happens to the Y-axis, or quantity, what happens to price? Well, as price goes up, in this case, the trend is upward sloping. And when the trend is upward sloping, we say that's a positive relationship, or positive slope. Right? Because you have two positives. The X is a positive, the Y is a positive. You know this stuff. This is a basic graphing review. All right? So, in general, when the slope goes down, this tends to happen often to consumers. Consumers see this and they say, well, as price goes up, my amount of the good I'm willing to buy, notice I'm using the word willing to buy. If price goes up, I'm willing to buy more. If price goes down, price goes up, I'm willing to buy less. As price goes down, I'm willing to buy more. And that becomes our D. This is our demand curve. Okay? If we're talking about a supply curve, well, demanders don't supply things. Suppliers do, or producers. That's their better term. Producers supply things. Well, they have a different point of view. If you sell lemonade and it's 75 degrees out on Monday, you're going to make a certain amount of money. The next day, it's 105 degrees. Okay? What's going to happen? You probably figured it out. The price of the lemonade is going to be a lot more. You're going to get more demand. And therefore, the suppliers can now sell at a higher price. In fact, people who didn't even sell lemonade the day before, they come out of the woodwork. Hey, I'm going to sell lemonade too. Why? Because there's profit to be made. So the amount of suppliers increases, and on top of that, so the quantity increases, and on top of that, the price is increasing because people are demanding more. Okay? So I don't want to get too much into supply-demand shifting yet, but when price goes up, is that good or bad? The answer is both. It's bad for consumers, but it's good for the suppliers. Whichever way you're looking at it, price and quantity are both increasing, and this is your supply curve. Supply is positive, supply slopes upward, demand slopes downward. We're not going to put them together yet, okay? One thing at a time. So, I'm going to ignore the suppliers just for this video, and I want to get to the real crux of what I'm trying to get to. The first question we said is, what happens when price changes? Okay, forget the weather change to 105 degrees. Say this is lemonade, right? Lemonade. Well, if you tell a consumer the price went up, right? Most students in this class I say, why? Right? When price goes up, I buy less. Why? Because I demand less lemonade. That is what every student says when they walk in the class. And every student is always wrong. Price did not cause your taste buds to change all of a sudden and say, the price went up. I'm not really tasting the lemonade right now. I don't really feel like I want it. Price is an economic decision. It impacts your economic decision making. And so when price of something increases, say from here to here, we don't say that demand decreases. What we say is that the quantity demanded, so price went from $2 to $5, let's say. What happens? Well, at $2, I bought 2 cups of lemonade. At $5, you know what? I just want 1. Well, what happened? Price has impacted the amount that I'm willing to pay for. On this graph, we're going to make up names. It might be a little cheesy. We'll make up names. We've got Becky. I'm going to forget the names. It's all right now. Becky, John, okay, Steve, and we'll do Mary. Each of these persons has what's called an individual demand or individual willingness to buy lemonade. When the price is $5, who's willing to buy that lemonade? John. But when the price is, let's say for Steve, when the price is $4, okay, who's going to buy that lemonade? Well, Steve. But will Steve buy it at 5? No, he won't. Only John will buy it at 5. Let's do it again. If the price is $4, however, who will buy it? Steve will buy it because he's willing to pay 4. What about John? Will he buy it? Yes, he will. So that means this one will be bought, and if this is like 1.5 cups or something like that, then Steve will also buy it. As the price goes down, Mary says, I'm not willing to buy it at 4, but I will buy it at 2. So Mary's now going to buy it. She's going to buy 2 cups at $2, and Steve's going to buy it, and John's going to buy it. Okay, and that's when our quantity is going to increase. So what we're seeing is when price changes, this is a rule, when price changes, the quantity demanded changes. Okay? Now, just to jump a little bit ahead, for the supply side, when price changes, right, to each new price, then the quantity not demanded, but quantity supplied changes. So when price changes, the quantity supplied also changes. So price changes, the QD changes. When price changes, the QS changes. In opposite directions. So when price goes up, the QD goes down. When price goes up for suppliers, what happens to the QS? The QS actually goes up, right? The price went up. Oh, you know what? Price went up. I can make a profit here. I'm going to sell more. Price goes down for demanders. Oh, I'll buy a little bit more. Price is lower. I'll buy more. All of a sudden, I want more lemonade because it's cheaper. Why not, right? I think you know that already. But be real. This is a super important point because when we start talking about shifting, it's quite different. All right? How much time we got left? All right. I'll show you a shift real quick. All right. So we'll do one for each. For demand, this is supply. This is demand. When I say there's an increase in demand, what I'm saying is there's a shift in demand. It means every single one of those people, John, Mary, Becky, everyone in the economy, they all want more lemonade if we're dealing with lemonade. Okay? They all want it. The next part's super important. They all want more lemonade at every single price. John's willing to pay more for his cup. Becky's willing to pay a little bit more for her 1 cup or 2 cups or 3 cups, however many they're buying. And the entire line, all these dots for everyone, shifts to the right. In this case, we increased our demand at every single price from going from the P side. On the quantity supplied side, well, all the producers say, well, for whatever the reason, there could be a number of reasons when we get into that, they decide they're going to increase this amount of supply, right? More people are entering the market, something like that. So in this case, supply shifts to the right, and this would be a shift because at every price, suppliers are willing to produce more. If it's opposite, if they say, oh, you know what, for some reason, lemonade, it's getting colder out, people don't want lemonade in this case, then people say, well, at every price, I don't really want lemonade at these higher prices. I'm unwilling to pay as much. But if it's like 25 cents, maybe I'll buy more. That's different. But they're saying that at every single price, demanders are now willing to pay less for lemonade. Similarly, when suppliers decrease, right, they're willing to produce less, or they're unwilling to produce as much. Then the shift is to the left for suppliers. And you show a little arrow. These little arrows tell you the direction of the shift. All right, so I didn't mean this to go this long, but one kind of falls into the other. All right, so let's get ready to do some of those PowerPoints and then questions practice.